to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Well, hello, hello, hello. It is your host, Maxine Phillips McCoy, coming to you for the Life Strategy Show. Why don't we pause for a second? Go on, reach out, let everyone know that you're watching this show, have them to join you. We have a phenomenal guest with us this evening. You know, all of my guests are special and they drop platinum nuggets. So get your pen and your paper ready because it's important that you take this information down and don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with others. So go on, take the time to ping somebody, let them know to come into this life strategy show and listen in. You never know, there might be a surprise and you could easily win a gift. All right, so as we get started, this is about life strategies. I am the president of GAMS Unlimited and the founder of Level Less. I always explain what Level Less is because it's a shift in the mindset. It's about helping individuals to build their dream. And in building your dream is about removing levels in your mind. Because once you remove those levels, you continue to succeed on your terms. You know your worth and you can advocate for yourself. So that's what Level Less is all about. It is the movement. So join this movement and become Level Less. I am also an architect. Okay, architect build things, but I don't just build things. I help individuals to build their dreams, what they have seen for themselves. And I always say the sky is not the limit, so don't limit yourself. You have visions, you have aspirations, you have goals. And that's what Level Us is all about, is helping you to exceed those goals, not about reaching a certain level. So enough about me. But my guest this evening, oh my gracious, do we have a surprise for you? He is none other than Frank. Frank, now I have to make sure that if I don't pronounce that middle name, I'm going to say Frank Jordan, and Frank is going to help me pronounce that middle name so I can get it correct. But what I want to tell you is that he is a best-selling author, a best-selling author. You hear me? Not just one book, but Frank has written 7 books. Not only did he write books, but he is a historian of the Black community. You know, he's a historian when it comes to the brown community. He has done so much research. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I cannot wait to hear the strategies that he has put in place for himself to help him get to where he is today. So let's bring Frank up right now. Let's give him a round of applause, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Maxine, how are you feeling? How's everything going?
Everything is going good. You can see, Frank, I can get pretty excited, so I have
Right.
to like tone it down a little bit because I can get way out there because it's so exciting when I bring my special guest on. And it's all about sharing the strategies that you have put in place because let's face it, COVID put a damper on a lot of people in their mindset. People start thinking that they're not going to be able to move forward because of all the hold up and the things that were stopped, during COVID. But I tell you, Frank, you and along with the guests that I have brought on, you are giving people hope. You're
Yes.
helping people to understand that they can move forward. They just
Right.
have to continue to put that strategy in place and to continue working towards it. So let's talk a little bit about you. I know you from Brooklyn, New York. Hello, hello.
Okay.
New York is in the house.
That's right. That's right. Good old Brooklyn. That's right.
That's right. So tell us just a little bit more about you.
Well, as everyone knows, I'm definitely a history buff. That's one thing. love history. And the more and more that you research history, just the more and more that you find how important, that our people are in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, also I'm a writer, historian. I've actually ghost written for BET. I don't tell too many people that BET, and also for PBS as well too.
Ooh, but listen, you just let it out of the bag. Listen, we air to 120 countries. Hello. So it's no more secret. That is awesome. Continue. Tell us a little bit more.
Absolutely right, and I also have actually a Hebrew school in Raleigh as well too, and have won. I would probably say maybe 23 literary awards as well too. Author of the year over at the Nat Turner plantation in Virginia, and that's a place that I think that everyone should get out. So I think it was 2018 when I won the award. It's a fantastic place. The people that reside there and the host, Mr. Khalifa and his family, those guys are terrific. That's out there. They give you a rundown on Nat Turner. That's the area over there in Drury, Pennsylvania. Virginia, over there in the Emporia area. That's pretty much where Nat Turner, was at, and that's where he was actually killed at, in that area. But they do a fantastic job. They turn them into a museum/library, and they do everything once a year. They draw people over there, and they have a really good reservational farm over there as well too.
Wow. So the Nat Turner Estate is what.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. We want to make sure that we get that. If we don't put it up while we're airing, then what we'll do is we'll make sure we list it on Facebook after the show, because you're right. I think it's important that it's an area or a location that people can visit and get to know more. And it's all about history and learning more about our history.
Right.
So that brings another question up. What intrigued you to even start doing all of this research?
Falling asleep too much in high school during history. That's what intrigued me. Hey, listen, hey Maxine, listen, the reason why our black students and our black kids, including myself, listen, we didn't really pay too much attention, to history, because it was nothing being taught about us in history. The older you get, you start researching. George Washington was a slave owner. Thomas Jefferson also was a slave owner as well too. Right. Ben Franklin as well too. So the constitutions and the amendments, when you go back, when you research those things are actually put in place actually to set us back, and not only to control us, as a nation of people, but to keep us conditioned, to keep us in a maximized, facility called the United States. The constitutions and the amendments is nothing more than the peace treaties that Andrew Jackson made with the North American Indians. He made over 375 peace treaties and broke every last single one of them. So I was intrigued more or less, at how fascinating our history was as I started to study, go to the libraries, visit a lot of places, museums, different nations and different countries. You find out that a lot of things that, school teachers, which most school teachers aren't their fault, they do the best that they can because they're taught a curriculum that they have to teach. And I get that. And I totally understand that, school teachers ought to be paid a salary far more, than what they're paid today. But I do understand why they're being paid the salary that they're being paid today, because really, to be honest, they're being taught a certain curriculum that they have to expound on, and they have to teach our kids. And to be truth be told, Maxine, I'm still kind of insulted, that our kids go to school and still learn, about, the founding forefathers of our country. George Washington, he had our forefathers in slavery, right along with Thomas Jefferson. They had our forefathers in slavery, and that's still part of the United States school curriculum. I'm insulted. That's why I do what I do.
So help me to understand, have you been able to take this information into the school system and share it with the school system? And if so, what has the outcome been?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My books are actually in and sold in, I would say probably maybe more than 46 different universities and 46 different schools, elementary, middle schools, and high schools throughout the United States. And it's very well received because, one thing you can't argue with, Maxine, is facts and truth. And historynomics has always been on our side as a people. One thing you can't argue with is the condition that we're facing today and still facing, in the conditions that we've always faced, the challenges, the struggles, the obstacles that we've always faced as a people. But you got to take it a step further. You got to ask yourself, why do these things always happen to us year after year? We're voting, we're marching, we're singing. Why does this stuff actually keeps happening to us years, century, decades, generation, after generation? Why does this stuff keep happening to us, and why isn't anything done about it? So when I come and when I get invited to these different schools and these different institutions, I'm received greatly, and no opposition, pretty much no pushback. Everybody always have a lot of questions. A lot of teachers and professors always have millions of questions. Sometimes I get booked, or sometimes I get invited to universities, and I'm only there booked for like about maybe an hour and a half. And normally 9 times out of 10, I'm there for like about 3 to 4 hours.
I was going to say 1 hour would not do you justice at all. So you need at least a half day. Yeah, I agree with that. That is awesome, because you know what? It's just so much information, like you said, that has been omitted from the textbooks. And how are our, youth or children going to receive it if someone has not done the research, someone who's not willing to come out and start sharing this information? And my heart is with with the high schoolers anyway, but it all starts in elementary, not just high school, because if we teach the children while they're young, then they don't grow up like I did, believing that Columbus discovered America, and it's like, how could he discover America when he had to make a treaty with the Indians? They were already here. So how can you discover something that someone is already living? The habitat, it's already there. And so I didn't question that as I was learning it in high school. I questioned it after I became an adult and had an opportunity to really think about it. Hello from Alabama. We have someone from Alabama's in the house. Hello. Glad to have you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And one of the things, Maxine, that I've really found out is that our people are afraid to speak out on what they know is the truth. Not only are we afraid, but we're ashamed to be ourselves. We're learning, everything that's taught to us over here in the United States is traditionally a Europeanized learning area in what we do. This is all Europeanized, from what we do, from what we learn, from what we dress, from the, pretty much everything, the ABCs, the English alphabet, everything is pretty much European influence over here in America. And our people, the hardest thing that our people, I learned, what they can't understand and they can't come to grips with is be your natural self. Our people have become afraid to even speak out on certain issues that will benefit Black people. It's almost like a psychological strategic strategy that has worked. And it's almost like our people are still in visualizing a slave master opening with a whip and a noose ready to hang them if they speak out on certain things. And that was something that was strategically put in our minds, even when we came over here to America. And sadly, as it may sound, our people still have that stigma and they still have that spirit in them to some degree. Not all of our people, but most of them.
Yeah, because sometimes we're not careful. We think of that, that suppression, always being suppressed and not being able to be free and be ourselves. And, many times I would say, I am who I was born to be. I am who I am, and that's all that I am. It's like, accept me as I am, because this is all you're going to get. And that brings me to why I do an ability assessment, especially for our youth, because it's important to me that our youth start understanding who they are from their core as early as possible in life. Because the sooner we understand who we are, we're no longer trying to be validated by someone else, such as society. And I always say, well, who is society? Give me their name. Give me their email address. Give me their telephone number. And no one can give me that, because society is a group of individuals that have a certain mindset, like what you just talked about. But what if imagine that if we can get these same individuals to start thinking in the mindset of you are who you are. You don't have to be pretend to be someone else. Don't be like an actor. You're taking on a certain a role of another
Right,
person or
right,
another persona. You don't have to worry about that. Just be you and do you.
right,
And so
right.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, look, you're absolutely correct. And I had this argument with someone about a week ago. Um, we're the only people that, go to school for 12 years, go to college for 8 years just to work for another corporation or just to work under someone. That's what America teaches, even in the educational systems. You do 12 years of school, you go to college for 4 years, and, you go to school and get a master's degree, just to work up under someone else. They don't teach and they don't push, once you're finished and you get a trade, to open up your own business. They never teach that. They never really push that. The only time that's really relegated and that's really institutionalized in our people's minds is that you already have that chip in your head already, maybe from your parents. Because listen, I'm gonna tell you, during the time of segregation, okay, that's when American blacks were at their richest. Okay, during the time of segregation. All right, we had our own banking systems, we had our own farms, we had our own airports. Okay, I don't have to tell you, right here in Durham, North Carolina, on East Parish
Black
Street,
Wall Street.
they had Black
Black
Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And look, the Mechanics and Farmers Bank was actually, erected by
Black
three great
owned.
black men. Absolutely, right. And the
Right.
mutual insurance company building is still standing today. So you would ask yourself, and one would, question, and one would ask themselves, okay, we had our own banks. The North American Indians before Columbus came over, they had their own herbal farms, medicational system. Like they came, like when Columbus came over, they volunteered to have smallpox over here. When Columbus came over here, we had our own banking systems, irrigation systems. We had our own food, water buffalo. The air was
Yeah.
more pure. And during the time of segregation, we had our own educational systems, pharmacies, hospitals in Chicago. You had Provident Bank that was set up by Daniel Hale Williams. That was an all-black hospital, okay, that dubbed as a nursing facility for black doctors and for black nurses only during the time of segregation. So if we came together as a community and we had these things, why would we want to integrate? Why would we want to integrate with a people that had our forefathers in slavery and was so and still so hell bent on making our lives a living hell through amendments and constitutions? You got to ask yourself, why would we want to integrate with a society, okay, that had nothing to do but push us back, degrade us all the time, teach us that we were nothing, even our own skin is bad, the way we walk, the way we talk, why would we want to integrate with a people like that when we had our own? And as a result of integration, during the time of the Vietnam War, it started probably about 1955, and I know the war ended in 1975. During that time, it opened up the floodgates to the beginning of the end of the black community. During that time was the worst time, period, for the black community, when the black man was taken out of the household and taken over there to Vietnam during a draft. Okay, and during that 20-year period, the black community suffered. Okay, they really suffered.
Yes, yes. And when you talk about that era, it also bothered me because here our black men were forced, to go into war, to do this war, even though it was never totally declared a war. But the whole thing of it is that when they came back, the respect was gone.
Right.
There was no respect.
Right.
It's like, but you force them to go, and now that they're back,
Right.
then you are, isolating them. You're not respecting them. You're not having anything to do with them. You don't have anything set up for them in order to help them mentally, emotionally,
Right.
to overcome everything that they had to endure while they were there, taken off of their motherland, and taken into another region unknown. They had never been off, the United States soil.
Right, right.
And
And you gotta listen
to the world that way is like, wow.
Right. And you gotta, Maxine, you gotta ask yourself, people, looking at this podcast, and people, see me lecture all the time. And you gotta ask yourself, thinking outside the box. One would say, is it just a coincidence And are all the odds just stacked against Black people all the time? Do these things happen just, everything has a plan. Everything has a plan. And when you go back and when you look before, before the war, and during the time of segregation, again, that's when Blacks were at their richest. In Detroit, you had Paradise Valley, you had Black Bottom in Detroit. And just coincidentally, what they did, they erected a highway, I think it was Highway 75, to go straight through, okay, Black Bottom Detroit and Paradise Valley. And Paradise Valley and Black Bottom Detroit was a segregated area where they had their own beauty salons, they had their own theaters, they had their own hotels, okay, that was built by Black people, just like they got a hotel right here in Durham, North Carolina, in Raleigh, that was built and erected by Black people during the time of segregation. So people don't understand, why would they put a highway, just like they did here in Durham? They put the Durham Freeway right through East Parish Street. So people would say, well, why would they put a highway through a particular neighborhood? Wouldn't that bring business, and wouldn't that, when they're finished? But you got to understand, the government can draw out a governmental contract for a highway for 15 years for as long as they want. They can drag it out for as long as they want. Okay, but during that time, if there's a highway going through your neighborhood, guess what, Maxine? Business is over. Business is over. Nobody can't get to your business. You can't get to your business, okay, to open up your stores, everything, and they making sure everything is blocked off around your business so they can erect that highway through. So as a result of that, guess what happens? You lose business, you just give up, everything is gone. That's just it. Forget about it. We can't do business no more for 5 and 6 years, 5 and 10 years. And coincidentally, Maxine, that's what they did to actually 10 prominent Black communities during segregation. They ran highways through there purposely.
We talk about understanding your purpose, right, so that you can succeed in life. And now here you are sharing with us that a strategy by the government was purposely designed in order to take business out of that community so that the suppression can continue. Right. Let me
read something to you real quick, Sister Maxine. This is in my book right here. We Once Were a Family. All right, okay. This is Black Bottom Detroit in 1942 during the time of segregation. They had and this is all Black community. They had 151 Black physicians, 140 social workers, all in the Black community, 85 Black lawyers, 57 Black-owned restaurants. And this is during 1942. 57 restaurants, 71 beauty shops, 36 dentists, 30 drugstores, 25 barbershops, 25 headdress maker shops, 20 Black hotels that was built by Blacks, 15 fish and poultry markets, 10 Black hospitals, 10 Black hospitals, 10 Black hospitals, 10 electrician companies, 9 insurance companies, 7 building contractors, 6 floral shops, 2 bondsmen, and 2 dairy distributors, all in one neighborhood called Black Bottom in Detroit. So when you have neighborhoods that's like that, Maxine, that's all Black, not only does the Black dollar get recycled, okay, it goes from my hand to your hand, to your sister's hand, to your brother's hand, over there in the barbershop, it comes back.
And in the Black community.
There you go. They said that back during the time of segregation, the Black dollar recycled itself 135 times before it left out. They said now the Black dollar goes around one time.
I was thinking 6, but now you're telling me it's 1.
One time. Okay. It goes from my hand to the Black barber's hand to wherever holes he's gonna do with it.
Good gracious, good gracious. Oh my gracious. See, that's why we needed you on this show. When I say life strategies, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is a strategy that was put in place, that the government put in place. Absolutely. In order to eliminate that Black dollar that was so rich.
Right.
In these communities. And so it's things like that that's not a part of the history book, is not a part of what's being taught in the school system. So if it's not being taught in the school system, who's going to teach it?
Right. And look, Maxine, one more point too. You know why in the Black community, the reason why you got banks now like Wells Fargo, you got Bank of America, you got Chase, You got all of these foreign banks because during the time when the black man was over there in Vietnam and they took the black man out and they was destroying, okay, our communities during that time. In comes commercialization, in comes the American banking system. Now they want to control everything that we do through a debit and credit system. The North American Indians, when Columbus came over here, they didn't have a debit credit system. They didn't have any borders on their land. That was all done by the United States presidents and the amendments and the congregations, okay, and the congressional acts when they boarded off the lands. The North American Indians had good, well, they didn't need a debit credit system. They didn't need that at all. That was the American way for what? To control our money and to control our people. If we have our own mechanics and farmers bank, why would we want to go bank somewhere else when the money can be loaned to our people, okay, so we can buy houses, so we can feed our kids, so we can get more farmland, so we can buy more acres of land, so we can erect our own schools, okay? And on top of that, to raise taxes off of the land, and it's no different. You got people that come into and they call it now, Maxine, they call it gentrification. Gentrification is just another word, okay, for the same thing that Columbus did when he did the same thing to the North American Indians, the exact same thing.
Yeah, and they always come up with a word, you know, it's always got to be a word that someone made up, and then they put a definition around it.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why I say society. Who is society?
Right.
It could be the government. It could be a group of individuals.
Right.
Like we might have a question. Let's see. I thought I saw a question. This is why the PPL, like people like myself and Pamela McCoy, purposely find and shot with Black-owned businesses. Yes, and you know we talk about keeping that Black dollar within the community.
Right.
You know, many times. I mean, I am one, just like Miss McCoy is talking here. I believe in trying to circulate the money in the Black community as well, but then it's not reciprocated.
Right.
I circulate it.
Right.
But I don't get that coming back to me.
Right.
It goes out of my hand, but it doesn't return to me through someone else who's Black.
Right. You know why?
I was going to say, help me to understand what's going on with that.
Right. You know why, Maxine, is because America has taught us. They've done a hell of a job on us hating one another. When you take everything away from a people, when you take away when you take away everything, when you take away their land, when you take away their sources of living, and when you take away all the essentials that they have and you charge them and put them up under a debit credit system, and you put them in places called, less, low income places, where you have guys that just came out of jail and, they go back to these places, we're at each other's throats. And what America has taught us to do, America has taught us to be enemies towards one another. That's what America has done. They have taught us to hate one another and be an enemy towards one another by putting us in confined areas, where your mind really can't think, and you really can't think in a confined area where you have, someone upstairs may be a child molester, the guy next door may be a drug dealer, the guy downstairs, may have did 25 years, a murder charge. So when you have all of these people all in one area, okay, confided up in one area, that's a cauldron. And when you have no community centers, you have no counselors, you have no kind of essential outlet to them like you're perfect with, you have none of that available to them for people to give them a choice or an option to say, okay, this is the wrong way to go. It's bound to be a lot of criminal activity that's going on. So as a result of that, of course, you're going to hold your pocketbook and put 3 and 4 locks on your doors if you live in a neighborhood because of the crime level, okay, that everyone has created. Okay, gun violence. There would be no guns if the Smith and Wesson family wouldn't create guns. Okay, it would be no guns.
And drop them in the community for people to have. Right.
There you go. There you go.
Well, how did they get them? They can't afford them. So where did they come from?
If Henry Colt didn't put together a gun called the Colt, where would we find the guns? If they don't have chemicals if they don't have a lab called the CDC, how would they put together fentanyl and drugs and grow poppy fields? And how would we know what that stuff is if they didn't create it for us at our disposal?
Say it again, our disposal.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me bring out one point to you. This guy right here, this is for a little self-motivation. This guy right here by the name of George C. Sampson. Okay, as a brother,
Yes.
Okay. Anytime you go to the store and see a Whirlpool wash machine or any kind of wash machine and dryer, guess who invented
Right.
it? A
He
brother
did.
by the name of George Sampson was the one who invented the wash machines. And let me say this the type of stuff that they hide from the kids in school, the black kids in school. Okay, they only show you things like Martin Luther King marching, okay, marching and almost sort of like in a begging way to beg America to like us, but they never show stuff like this at all to give your kids some kind of motivation and to give them some kind of hope and to say, wow, that was a black brother that was someone that looked just like me that do that. If he did it, I know I can do it.
Do it. Yeah, that brings me to the never will forget when my daughter was in elementary school and I was a part of the PTA. And they asked me, because I was the only African American on the PTA committee at that point. They asked me, so what do they think we should do for Black History Month, right? And I said, well, I don't think it should just be for a Black History Month. I think it should be Black History, period.
Right.
And so they said, well, what would you suggest? So I pulled together a committee, and it was a diverse committee.
Good.
And it was a diverse committee in the community, not just in that school. Right. And we did Africa and African Americans, and we brought in a lot of the different inventions that were invented by African Americans, but they were enhanced by other, the Caucasians. They were enhanced by the Caucasians. So therefore, it sort of like took away from who actually invented it, because somebody else may have improved upon it, but they didn't invent it. Like the stoplight, for instance, was invented by an African American. I mean, not too many kids know that.
Right.
So what we did was we brought in all these inventions that were invented by African Americans so that the kids could actually see them, touch them, feel them, interact with them, so that they can see for themselves that, yes, this is an invention that you can come up with things. You have ideas, you have creativity, you're innovative.
Right.
And so that brought me to, that just took, you took me down memory lane right then when you said that. So, yeah, but it's so critical that our young people and everybody understands that African Americans are and have always been powerhouses. We've always had to make do and create from what we were given. We weren't given the cream of the crop.
Right.
And because we were not given the cream of the crop, we made it the cream of the crop because of, I would say, our own innate abilities, our natural abilities that we were given, and the innovation that we had already within us.
Absolutely.
And so, Frank, that makes me start thinking and makes me even more proud of the work that I do by helping our young people understand this is who you are. You all are already creative.
Right.
Yes, we do have to go through the core subjects in the school. Don't get me wrong, but you have innate abilities that you were already born with. Let's find out how best you can use those to become who you were created to be. Right.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And look, let me drop something else on you. There's a place that there's a beach area in Martha's Vineyard. Before Martha's Vineyard became Martha's Vineyard, it was a black owned beach land called Oaks Bluff, and later on it became Martha's Vineyard. Black people actually owned Martha's Vineyard, okay, in the past, just like you got the Carr sisters that had 180 acres of beach land, and now what they call, the state took it over, now it's called Virginia Beach. The Carr sisters had 180 acres of beach land in the Chesapeake area. They called it Black Eden during that time. And it was 180 acres of land that the state of Virginia came and, of course, finagled their way and took away from them. And a lot of people don't know about stuff like this. Look it up, the Carr sisters, C-A-R-R, the Carr sisters. 180 acres of land in Chesapeake, what is now known as Virginia Beach, that was owned by black women at one time. It was called Black Eden at one time. Bruce Beach in California, which everybody's coming to find out. I've been teaching about Bruce Beach for the last 20 years. And it was called Manhattan Beach as well, too. That was another black owned beach that was owned in California. Now they just given, I think, the great grandkids of the black people who owned it, they're actually giving them some kind of reparation behind that.
Yes, so, that was on the news. Yes,
right, right. News. You had another beach in Maryland. It's called Highland Beach in Maryland. That was another black-owned resort as well too. Now it belongs to the state of Maryland. But one of the biggest ones, like I said, was Martha's Vineyard and Virginia Beach, which was called Black Eaton. And a lot of people, when they go to Virginia Beach, they have no idea that whole land area was owned by Black women at one point in time.
Already owned by Blacks. And then we're trying to pay our way to get there and live and be a guest on this
Right.
beach.
Right.
Martha's Vineyard, is known for, greatness. Everybody's trying to get there. Everybody want to be a part of it. Everybody want to advertise that they're at Martha's Vineyard, not realizing that it was land that was taken from the Blacks. Now they're allowed Blacks to come back in and be a part of it.
Right. Now they got to look, and I got another one for you too. They got a place in Long Island, New York, called Reese Beach. That was called Sag Harbor, Long Island at one time. That was owned by Blacks as well too. It was called Sag Harbor, Long Island, owned by Blacks. Now it's called Reese Beach. Now it's owned by the state of New York. And that was once another place, another beach area front that was owned by Blacks as well too.
Wow. I tell you, Frank, I am so glad that we met. Terrence Perry is the reason for us meeting, and we were there side by side at this community, actually sharing our information with the community again at large.
Thank you.
And so I'm so thankful that we met, because had we not met, of course, I purchased the book so I can give to my grandkids.
Thank you.
So they can read it, because I think it's so important that they understand all that they can about the true Black history and what has taken place in the United States.
Right.
Not only in the world, but in the United States, where we are residing right now. Because many times, even in our own hometowns, we don't know the richness of what we were surrounded by, because I did not realize all the richness of West Virginia when I was a little girl living in West Virginia. I couldn't wait to get out of West Virginia, right? Not realizing all the water rafting and everything like that people are coming back to, trying to be a part of, the Appalachian Mountains and how beautiful it is and everything. So we don't understand our own richness, when we are younger. It's not until we get older and come back and start appreciating it. But I love what you're talking about, because now we can help our young people to understand it right now. Absolutely. They don't have to wait until they become an adult. It is about transforming generations, and it is about not only bridging legacies, but leaving legacies.
That's right. And look, let me say this too, Maxine. You hit on a really good point. The easiest way to brainwash people is get them while they're babies. Get them while they're in school. Because like I always say, you can't have a Caucasian teacher teach slavery. That should be outlawed. They may know of slavery, okay, but they can't relate to it like we can, and they can't teach it like we can, because they're going to water it down all the time, and they're going to make it seem like it wasn't the way it really was. In the accounts of everyone of slavery, okay, they're going to try to water it down just a little bit. That's the reason why they're trying to incorporate themselves into slavery now, okay, by saying the indentured servants. They went, the people that's from Denmark over there, they went through the same thing. No, they didn't. There's a difference between indentured servant and being a slave. The indentured servants, they was vagabonds, and they came over here to work the land for 7 years. And after they worked the 7 years, the land was theirs. And they got 40 acres along with that as well, too. And if they had any slaves, they got slaves along with the land as well, too. So that's a difference. They didn't come over here. There's no accounts, Maxine, where you had Caucasians that was indentured servants that got whipped, lynched, hung, raped. Is no accounts of that. Okay, the way that we came over here on the cargo slave ship, stacked up, sweating the babies, thrown overboard, sharks eating them. That's the reason why they call sharks man eaters today. Okay, because the shark trail that still is from Southwest Africa, that's where most of the sharks are still roaming at today, from the slave trade, because they used to throw the slaves overboard, and the slave population tripled as a result of that. So they didn't go through the same things that we did. So a lot of times they try to incorporate that in there, but that's another trick in history. But let me say this also: the best way to dumb a great people down is to always let them know that you didn't have no part in history. The way you look is bad, your nose is bad, your skin complexion is bad. We taught you everything. You don't know nothing. We the superior people, the way we look at us the way we look. You want to look like us. But when you go back in history, and like I said, history has always been on our side. It's the total opposite. It's the total opposite. I don't remember when we got off the slave ships. I don't remember us going to no European college. I don't know. There wasn't any universities waiting for us when we got off the slave ships. We went from the auction block straight to work. Okay.
Sure.
So
for someone else's glory, not our glory, but for
absolutely. So we went to So we went from the auction blocks straight to work, and we engineered and cropped lands and grew stuff and built the White House, and we built houses. How smart were we, Maxine? They didn't teach us anything.
You just hit on the reason why I have been given this assignment in life. My assignment in life is to help individuals to understand, and I'm going to call it their God-given abilities.
Right.
The abilities that they were born with, that no one had to teach it to them.
Right.
It's automatically part of their core and a part of their DNA. And as soon as we allow our young people to understand this as early as possible.
Right. Absolutely.
They can become, again, who they were created to be. Help them put that strategy in place. Help them use their strengths that they're using. Help them to be the entrepreneur, the genius that they are, the creative, innovative. Stop standing behind someone pretending to be something that you are not. Be who you are. You were born to be.
That's right.
As simple as that. Be who you were born to be.
That's right.
And a lot of our young Black men would stop being incarcerated. They would stop being, doing drugs and bad things like that because they don't know their true strengths.
Right.
They're using them in the negative way and not the positive way. Imagine you're running a whole group of individuals and you're the head leader, but it's negative. Imagine if you were the CEO of the empire and it was positive, the impact that you would be having on your community, that you would be having on your school, that you would be having on this nation, that you can have on this world. If you just flip the switch, flip your mindset and start doing it in a positive way and not a negative way. And that way you're not trying to outrun the law. You're doing it legal opposed to being illegal.
You're right. Let me tell you something. You're absolutely correct. And another thing also, why don't they show things like you and I talking about? One more thing, Robert Fleming. This is a brother back in 1919, a brother by the name of Robert Fleming. He invented the guitar. The guitar wasn't invented by Elvis. It wasn't invented by the Paul Lester and the family. It was invented by a Black guy by the name of Robert Fleming, the guitar. And let me say this too. Why don't they show that in schools? Because why? Because they want to appear dominant and they want to seem like we didn't have no part. And let me lay this on you too, Maxine. What they do is this: they'll put in the history books and some of the invention books, a brother like Robert Fleming, he added to, or he made, he added to, the schematic, or they'll say he made or he added to it. You can't add to something that's not there.
Already created too.
You can't add to something. You can't add to anything that's not there. It's like, somebody saying something that's not even invented, I added to it. I can't do that if it's not there. So that's another bone that they put in there. Just like Thomas Edison. Everybody knows that brother Louis Latimer invented the filament to light the bulb up. The only thing Thomas Edison did is just draw up the glass schematic, and it's just glass. It was just glass. That could have been a drinking glass. But the brother Louis Latimer, he went into the lab, and what he did, he made a filament to light the bulb up. The glass is nothing without the filament. It's nothing without the filament. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. No, he didn't. He just invented the glass to go around the filament. That was it.
But again, it's the persona, is the image that they want to feed us, and then we start believing it. And I love what you said. If you can start at that early age and get them to believe it, then it's already instilled, and then they continue to believe it. And the hardest thing is to have them to undo that belief. Because now it becomes a habit. Hey,
listen.
Somebody said the latest trick is to tell folks that we should be universal instead of being proud of ourselves. Yeah, we definitely need to be proud of who we are. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, Maxine, listen to this, right? I remember when I was in high school. I remember when I was in high school, and I always bring this point out all the time. I remember when I was in high school, we had classes during the second half of the afternoon. In the morning time, we had basic classes like chemistry, math, English, social studies. We had basic classes, but that was broken down. The last maybe 3 or 4 hours of the day, we had classes called shop classes, where they actually taught us a trade in high school.
Yes.
They actually taught us a trade in high school, whether it was wood shop. I took up electronics and engineering. Whether it was girls going to school for cosmetology. I was fortunate enough to be raised in Brooklyn, where wherever you wanted to do, they had a school called automotive high school, where if you wanted to become a mechanic, you go to school, high school for 4 years. So what these guys were doing across the board, even here in the South, they was going to high school, coming out of high school with a trade, opening up their own businesses.
Yes.
But enter in, the later part, 1990, and they was like, say, hey, listen, we got to inject community college within this system right here, and we got to take away the trade within the school systems, okay? Because now we're going to make them pay for it. Because you had men that was coming straight from high school. I know, because I used to come down here to North Carolina and visit my cousins all the time, and they used to fix lawnmowers. They was fixing cars at the age of 15 and 16 years old, and I know this for a fact. So that's a trade right there that probably they learned from their dad or probably learned from school, that they said, okay, we got to enter in and we got to promote community college where we have to make them pay for this trade. And we're going to take out the shop classes and we're going to replace it with community college. So now what they're doing now, they're making you pay for it. Kids used to come straight out of high school and have jobs. Kids come to open up their own business, You notice they don't have that no more?
Nope. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking as a high schooler in West Virginia and seeing all of my male classmates being bused. We call about a 30-mile distance in order to learn a trade.
Right.
To learn the trade. And then here my father only went to the third grade, grade, because he had to drop out of school to help his family on the tobacco farm.
Right.
But he was a mechanic. Right. He was an electrician. See? He was a carpenter. And he only went to the third grade. Why? Yeah. Because he already had those abilities inside of him when he was born, and he was a visual learner. So he taught himself by looking at the pictures in the book.
Right.
Hello. I mean, you're right. The trade still needs to be there. So that's one of the reasons why when I do this assessment with these young people, it helps them to understand if you're going to go into the trade, what's going to be the best trade that complement, that matches who you are, that matches your strengths. Right. If you're going to go for a college degree, there's nothing wrong with that. But what degree plan are you going to go for? It needs to be something that you're passionate about, and not say you hope you're going to get a job, or you hope you're going to get some money, or you hope to become rich. Well, what is rich? Because you have to define what success is for you. It's not what someone else defines it for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely correct about that. I'm bringing out another point. Annie T. Malone is a Black woman, okay, that Madam C.J. Walker learned from.
Come on.
Annie T. Malone taught Madam C.J. Walker everything that she knew. Okay, Annie T. Malone, in St. Louis opened up a beauty university called Coral College. This lady, she invented this school. She had it erected, by Black people for Black beauticians. It was a beautician college called Coral College. Okay, that's in St. Louis. This is stuff they don't teach you in school. Madam C.J. Walker learned from Annie T. Malone, but they will never tell you who she learned from.
No, they only tell you about Madam C.J. Walker.
Right. C.J. Walker C.J. Walker was a student of Annie T. Malone. She actually attended Coral College and learned what she knew from Annie T. Malone. Now, if you got women like her that's building beauty schools and teaching Black, what does that incorporate and what does that breed? More Black women getting their own business and going out. There you go. I
have an aunt. I've been trying to get her to come on my show. She's like 93 or 94, but she was a beautician in Detroit.
Right.
Her own business. I mean, I admired her from a little girl watching her, and her hair was always together. Right. So my Aunt Neat is who I call her. Juanita Lemons. My Aunt Neat is my jewel. And she has some gorgeous long gray hair now. but I remember her, doing hair, and I remember her giving me instructions on how to do my own hair and everything. And so you're right. It's just when people have that natural gift and we help to cultivate it, we help to allow them to bring it out and fail forward.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can always be successful in everything that you touch or do, but in event, if you're not, if someone's there to catch you and help you to continue to move forward, and that's what we need to do as the people now.
Right.
As people now, we need to start collaborating and partnering with each other. And it's not about, it's all, mine. I can do it all by myself. I got to keep it and keep it to myself. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful for the platform that I have here at Pod TV.
Absolutely.
In order to bring special guests
I'm
such
thankful for it.
on, so that you can share this great information. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you have written some of this platinum information down. I trust that you will share it with other people. Don't just keep it to yourself. When we talk about transforming generations and bridging legacies and leaving legacies, that's the only way to do it, is to share it.
Right.
There's enough people in this world for everybody. And there's enough revenue in this world for everybody.
Absolutely.
We don't have to have it all. We just need to go on and live comfortably. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't be a hoarder of the information. Go on and share it and help others continue to move forward. COVID was, it shut down 2 years. It stripped us of 2 years. It stripped our young people of 2 years of education. They're gonna have to. Do they ever make that up? We don't know, because everybody have different ways of learning, and some people can learn faster than others. But it's nothing wrong with helping everyone to understand what their gifts are, what their abilities are, so that they can put a strategy in place and they can move forward in life, and they're no longer suppressed. That's what this show is all about. This show is about helping individuals to understand that here we have Frank sitting in front of us, who's done this research, to sharing this information, all of these inventors and inventions that has happened. You too can invent. You too are creative. You too can come up with things that have not yet been positioned and put in front of us. Or you can also enhance what you come across. That's being done as well. So don't underestimate your own ability. Start believing in yourself.
There you go.
Start taking inventory of what you see yourself doing. So don't say, oh, I wish they would do this. No, you do it. You do it. Don't wish for someone else to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, start researching. This internet is full of so much information. And if you don't have access to a computer, you have the library that you can go to and have access to a computer. You have Frank. We're running Frank information across the screen where you can purchase his books. We're running his information across the screen where you can get in contact with him. He is available to come to your school. He's available to come to your church. He's available for a conference. He's available as a guest speaker so that he can share this information. And then there I am. I'm also available to come and do the same. But on my side, I'm talking about understanding your innate abilities, understanding the strengths that you were born with, and how do you identify them. But there's an assessment that we do to help you, not only the youth, but also adults and leaders. Hello, leaders. You need to understand how you influence other people. And you don't have to have a title to be considered a leader. So let's put that myth to rest right now.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. And look, let me say this. Speaking of leaders, let me hit you with this right here, Maxine. Our people get intimidated when they see Americans, Caucasian Americans, whether we go for a job interview, whether we go to college, whether you're in a supermarket, wherever you go for a bank loan. When you see, an American sitting behind that desk, when you see a white American sitting behind that desk, you get intimidated. It's just something about them that just intimidates us, that we fail right from the jump. Because why? Because they are the ones that instilled in us, self-hate will never be nothing. Why are you here? You can't go to certain restaurants. You don't belong in this part of town. You're not good enough to date our kids. We'll never accept you. And this is what they instilled in our minds. Okay. Look, black men want to become doctors. I know plenty of black men doctors, man. All hats off to those guys. I know plenty of them. Okay, black doctors. Okay, they'll show you on TV, even on soap operas. I would say probably 9.5. Are there any black doctors shown on soap operas? Are there any black doctors?
Not too often, right? Not too often.
They even brainwash you as even kids with the little guy that used to come on TV, Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser. He's a Caucasian. And so that subliminal, that psychologically gets in a lot of our people's minds. Like, I can't be like that because first of all, he's white with white privilege and all this. But let me show you something. This brother right here by the name of Daniel Hale Williams. Okay, not only was he a doctor, okay, but he was a heart surgeon. Okay, in 1891. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams erected a hospital in Chicago called the Providence Hospital that only serviced blacks, and it doubled as a school for doctors and nurses as well too. For Providence Hospital.
I remember Providence. I lived in Chicago for 9 years.
There you go. Right. And it doubled as a training center for black nurses and black doctors as well too. Let me say this. Don't be afraid. Listen, don't be afraid to get your own doctor practice and do the same thing. It doesn't really take much. It really doesn't take much. Don't work for the hospital. Build your own hospital.
Build your
own people.
That's why I used to say, don't wait to be invited to the table. Invite yourself to the table. But when you do, know what you're going to say.
There you go.
Stand up, stand out, and be proud of what it is that you have to offer. Know your value. Know your worth. And one of the things that Mark, which is a producer here on the TV Pod TV, he talked about his grandmother founded the Black Library in Raleigh and attended Columbia University. Like back in the 1940s.
Man.
Yeah. So yes, I agree with that. So so that's why us talking about this is why I say join the conversation. So if you have someone that in your family or know of someone who's done some of this information, share it with us. If you don't share it right here, put it in the chat and we'll make sure that we post it on the website.
Right.
So we've got several people. Sylvester Williams is talking about he remembered it was intentional that guys went to school that attended the vocational classes. Yes. And I remember as a high schooler, I took home economics.
Right.
With the 7th and 8th grade, it was required. The 9th and my 11th grade, I chose to take it because I wanted to know how to make my own clothes. I was from a family of 12. And so that meant that my mother and father couldn't afford to buy me clothes. If I knew how to make my clothes, I would still have new clothes. And I went on and became a master tailor. So I have a trade and I have the degrees. And then I have the certification. Now I have the business. So you have to start. But I've always had that little curious mind. I've always wanted to get out there and explore the world and see what else was to it.
Right. And Maxine, how is it that some of the best like you said, homemakers, sewers, black women that can read patterns and implant it in a mind, sewing machine, needle and thread, knitting. Some of the best knitters in this world are black people. They got it from the North American Indians. How is it that now we go to stores like Macy's and Belk's and we go Saks Fifth Avenue, we go to the malls and buy clothes? They do what they always do. They incorporate our genius. They buy and they supplant and they steal our inventions, and they incorporate our genius. Like you said, you was a sewer. The first time I ever ate French toast, my sister made some French toast in the 7th grade, and she learned from school. I didn't know what French toast was. I lived in Brooklyn. Hell, I know what French toast. But she made some French toast. I said, how did you learn how to make this? She said in school, in home ec class. I said, what?
Yeah. And I made quilts. I've made quilts. I made dresses. I made men's clothing. I've made bedspreads. I made, So once you learn how to sew, then your imagination carries. It carries. And I was doing sewing for bands in Chicago. Then I was doing tailoring, for other people. But it came down to that people don't want to pay for the labor.
Right.
It costs to have these tailor-made clothing. So I know we're wrapping up, and I have to have you back so we can continue this conversation.
Anytime. Look, one more point. There's a hospital on Fayetteville Avenue that was erected by blacks called Lincoln Hospital. That was on
Okay.
Fayetteville Street. It was an all-black hospital. Okay,
Now,
on
is
Fayetteville
that
Street.
here? Is that here in the Raleigh-Durham area on
In
Fayetteville?
Durham, North Carolina, on Fayetteville Street, there was an all-black hospital called Lincoln Hospital. It's now called, I think Durham Regional Hospital.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, this concludes it, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, this conversation can continue, but
Oh, yeah.
we know that we're out of time. And Frank, I am so honored to have you here this evening.
Thanks for having me, Maxine. I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, his information is running across the screen, and we will post it on Facebook and also where you go and purchase his books. Definitely support this Black author, historian, award-winning, everything. So thank you again, Frank. So we're going to make sure that gets out there. Hey, time is up. And I know that we want to carry on, but we must end it. But I'll be back next week.
Absolutely.
And we'll have to have Frank back another time. So we'll get on his calendar. So in the meantime, I believe in you. I trust you believe in yourself. And school is getting ready to start. And I wanted to give a shout out to the Discount Tire in Nightdale. The reason why I'm giving a shout out to Mike is the 5-star service that he gave to me today, from the time I made a call in to the time I took my car in and picked it up. That's what we want. 5-star service, no matter where we go and no matter who we're talking to, because you never know. If you're entertaining a stranger, it could be an angel.
Right. That's right.
I believe in you, and I trust you believe in yourself. See you same time next week. Have a good evening.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance.